Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're digging into a really cool study that might have just uncovered a secret weapon for sprinters. Seriously, this could completely change your warm-up routine and give you a major edge on the field.
You know, if you're an athlete, that tiny split-second advantage in a sprint, well, that can be everything. It's the difference between winning and losing. And it turns out, science might just have the perfect pregame hack to help you find it. Okay, so let's get right into it. The whole idea here is built around this powerful thing our bodies can do, a phenomenon scientists call post-activation performance enhancement, or PAPE for short.
Now, in simple terms, think of it like this. You're basically waking up your nervous system. You do one heavy, but not totally exhausting lift, and for a little while after, your muscles are primed to fire on all cylinders. They get temporarily stronger, faster, and way more explosive.
But here's the catch. Getting this right is all about the timing. You do the exercise, sure, but then comes the most important part. You have to wait. This study, and a bunch of others, have zeroed in on a 7-minute rest period as the absolute sweet spot. If you go too soon, you're still tired from the lift. If you wait too long, well, the magic's gone.
So for years, coaches have had a go-to exercise to get this PEEP effect for sprinters, the famous barbell hip thrust. But this new study, it introduces a bit of an underdog, a contender you might not expect, the glute bridge.
And what's so wild is how a tiny little change makes a huge difference. With the hip thrust, your shoulders are up on a bench. For the glute bridge, they're flat on the floor. That simple shift completely changes which muscles get fired up the most. The hip thrust really hits the quads, while the glute bridge, as the name suggests, totally isolates and primes the glutes. Which leads to a really interesting question, right? We all know the glutes are absolutely essential for that explosive start in a sprint. So could this glute-focused exercise, the glute bridge, actually be a hidden gem for getting faster? Well, some researchers at the European Journal of Sports Science decided to find out. So how exactly did they set up this scientific showdown? Let's take a look at how they designed the experiment to get a real, clear answer. The setup was just beautifully simple. They took a group of experienced soccer players and split them 3 ways. One group did heavy hip thrusts, Group 2 did heavy glute bridges, and the third group, the control, just kind of hung out and rested. Then, after that magic 7-minute window, they all unleashed on a series of sprints to see what happened. All right, so the moment of truth. After all the stopwatches were clicked and the numbers were crunched, what did they find? Which exercise, if any, really gave these athletes an edge? Wow, the results are just crystal clear. Both the hip thrust group and the glute bridge group got way faster, shaving almost 3% off their 10-meter time. That's huge. But check out the control group, the ones who only rested. They actually got slower. This proves 2 things. 1, the PAPE effect is totally real. And 2, the glute bridge is right up there with the hip thrust. They're practically identical in their effect. And hey, don't just take my word for it. The researchers themselves said it plain and simple. The glute bridge isn't just some weird variation. The science confirms it is a legitimate, powerful tool for boosting that initial burst of speed. It is, quote, a viable alternative. This is just fantastic news for athletes and coaches everywhere because it gives you options. So the big question is, how can you actually take this science and use it in your own training? Okay, so here's the blueprint. You're going to want to use a moderately heavy weight, something you can still lift with some real speed and power. Then, and this is non-negotiable, you have to respect that 7-minute rest period. The bottom line is you now have another scientifically proven tool in your toolbox. This gives you more variety, and let's be honest, it's an amazing option for when you don't have a bench for hip thrusts. So thanks for tuning in to this explainer. The next time you're getting ready for a game or a big race, maybe give the glute bridge a shot. You now have a new, science-backed way to prime your body for peak power and maybe find that extra gear right when you need it most.